Yo, I want to talk about Innistrad and my theory on its missing creature type. Yes, Innistrad has vampires, werewolves and zombies, but I'm talking about something else. A lost creature type, featured in the cards and yet unremembered. A mystery hinted at in flavor text but absent from the story. An entire set archetype undeniably printed in paper and yet erased from the minds of the players. A forgotten faction of this world, deleted from the zeitgeist, their lack of inclusion so apparent that their absence was inexorably felt in our last outing to the plane. A missing piece of a larger whole, leading to a question I intend to answer. Who isn't here? Innistrad is a gothic horror plane of many creature types. Humans appear in all 5 colours, but the sets featuring the plane tend to focus on 2 colour pairs. White and green are humans and the forces that protect them, regardless of whether they worship Absense or older magics long since forgotten. White and red focus on the strength or vengeance of man, whether via the military might of the church or the common folk forced to take up arms in self-defense. White and blue is all about geists, and it includes cards that want to protect them, or study and work with them, even if that's at the geist's expense. White and black is a combination of contradictions, often depicting either the duality of characters or reflecting the light and dark working together as one for the benefit of humanity? Black and green shows us the dangers of the wild, depicting ancient forest creatures or those that live in harmony with them in those very same forgotten places. Black and blue is all about zombies, either brought back with necromancy or with the scientific know-how of a stitcher. Black and red is vampires, whether they be high aristocrats or blood-crazed neonates unable to control their thirst for blood. Red and blue represents the Dr. Frankenstein-esque mad scientists, either those that manipulate the world around them or the creations of such experiments now loose in the world. Red and green is for werewolves, sometimes regular wolves that might join a werewolf pack, sometimes humans that revere werewolves. Any which way, in these colours, the lycanthrope is king. And finally, green and blue is frogs? Shapeshifters? Oozes? This plant horror thing? Yeah, I'm not seeing a theme. I said during my video where I opened a box of Double Feature, link in the description, that I was uninspired when I pulled a vile spawn spider from a pack. Like, okay, it's green-blue, but it's a spider, and all the best Innistrad spiders like Kessig Recluse, Doomweaver, and of course, Ishkana, are in green and black as they represent the forbidden places of the forest. So why would I want a spider in green-blue? Look at the mechanics. Okay, it mills, which green does do a bit, but on Innistrad, mill is much better represented by cards like Nephalia Drownyard, Gisser and Gerulf, and Ludwig Necrogenius. Mill as an archetype works better in blue-black on Innistrad. It's not to say that the spider can't do it, it's just, if I want a deck that self-mills, this probably isn't it. Okay, that spider makes insect tokens, which, again, green does do, but only in 7 other cards from the plane, and one of those is Old Rotstein, which is green-black. And I realise that not all of these cards were in the same draft environment, but they are depicted as being from the same plane, and if you look at the other colours, when they print new cards for White-Blue Spirit Geist decks, for instance, they make sure that the new cards are either thematically or mechanically compatible with older cards and older mechanics using those same colours from older sets. Hell, even Tovalor made sure that the older werewolves would function alongside newer ones with the updated day-night mechanic. So what are these green-blue cards doing? Why is Vile Spawn Spider here? And I know it seems weird to go in on this one card, but I feel it underlines my point nicely. Green-blue on Innistrad doesn't have a unique identity. And that fact was felt nowhere more than during our recent revisit to the plane in Midnight Hunt and Crimson Vow. Think about it, what were those 2 sets about? Midnight Hunt was green-white humans throwing a festival that gets interrupted by red-green werewolves and black-red vampires. Crimson Vow, green-white and red this time humans, seek vengeance with the aid of red and green werewolves against the black and red vampires. What the hell is blue doing in these sets? Sure, we got some new zombie cards, not part of the story and not really doing anything new, but can fit nicely in decks alongside older Innistrad zombies. The same is true for the geists and spirits. And we got some interesting blue spells, but again, not really part of the narrative, the blue cards are thematically redundant. And as I already pointed out, the green-blue multicoloured creatures don't seem to fit in anywhere at all, even amongst each other. But hell, that's nothing new to these expansions. Look at the green-blue cards from across every Innistrad set. Memory's Journey, a woman with a staircase for a spine, Tracker's Instinct about walking around in the forest, Lashweed Lurker, and Eldrazi. The worst offender has to be this non-basic land, Alchemist's Refuge. Spend a green and a blue and tap it so you can cast spells this turn as though they had flash. Cool, okay, what alchemist-themed Innistrad spells can you cast with this then? How about Alchemist Greeting in red? Or Alchemist Gambit, also in fucking red? Something here doesn't add up. Something is missing. I said at the start of the video that there was a question I intended to answer about Innistrad. Something I think I have solved. What isn't here? Or, no, more precisely, what is here but for some reason we're just not paying attention to? Something about Innistrad has been forgotten. Something about Innistrad has been lost. And I think I found it. I think Innistrad's missing green-blue theme, its lost creature type, has been on the cards this entire time. But because it's not as in your face as vampires, werewolves and zombies, we tend to overlook it. Of course I'm talking about... Well, in terms of magic, what do you think of when you think of Merlin? You probably think Eldraine, right? If I said Magic the Gathering and Dumbledore, you'd probably think of Strixhaven, if you weren't thinking about transphobia, of course. If I said Magic cards and Gandalf, well, you'd think of the Lord of the Rings sets, I guess. But before that, you'd probably think of Dominaria. Well, what if I told you that it would make just as much sense when thinking about those wizened characters if you were to picture Innistrad? Hear me out. Innistrad's green-blue missing creature type is wizards. But not just any wizards, wizards with a twist. One that I think is fascinating and I'd love to see explored more as a concept in future sets. And I can say explored more rather than for the first time, because we've already seen a few of them printed on the cards. And I want to be clear, I am not talking about Geist mages who build ghost-powered contraptions to do magic. I'm not talking about priests who use faith in the angels to power their spells. I'm not talking about necro-alchemists who stitch flesh together into undead abominations. And I'm not talking about witches who derive their druidic power from nature or dark forces. I'm not even talking about people like Vadric, Aruth or Cecily, who seem to derive their power from sources like the stars, demons or geists. No, I'm talking about pointy-hat, book-learning, school-attending, Dungeons & Dragons high fantasy wizards. Right at home, alongside all of Innistrad's monsters. And I think the reason they've been forgotten is because they seem out of place. When you think gothic horror, you don't think classrooms where children are taught to control magic. And yet, that is exactly what we see depicted on the cards from Innistrad. You know what? Zoom in, let me show you. The girl from Think Twice from the original Innistrad set. Either I know just the spell I need or I'm about to. And what's she doing? That's not a symbol of Avacyn. This isn't church magic. She's not dressed like a druid or a witch. I don't see any geist magic or necro-alchemy happening here. So what, she's just a wizard? Is that her again in runic repetition? Look how she's dressed. She's not a Cathar. Those are wizard robes. And she's doing magic that's unlike the vast majority of other magic that we see depicted on Innistrad. Look at Beguiler of Wills, gaining control of a target creature. But she's not a vampire. This isn't hypnotism. Look at that aura coming off of her. She's a wizard, and I don't just mean her creature type. So what? Classical wizardry is contained to only a few people on a few cards? No, look at divination. Even the House of Galen, who takes the most scholarly approach to the mystic traditions, has resorted to exploring more primitive methods in Avacyn's absence. Okay, so yeah, that proves that magic is more powerful under Avacyn, but it also shows that it still works without her. And there are entire families and houses that train in scholarly wizardry. But magic feels sort of out of place on Innistrad, right? So surely there can't be that many wizard spells. What sort of thing could they even do? Or how about turn you incorporeal like we see in Ghost form? Reduce a creature to ash like we see in Bone to Ash? Or shadow clone yourself like we see in Infinite Reflections? And they're not all blue spells either. Reign of Thorn's flavor text reads, "When the forests became havens for evil, the archmages devised new ways to cleanse the wilds." And Into the Void shows us that those archmages don't mess around, as it depicts a couple of demons getting Kamehameha'd into orbit. Avacyn Restored's arcane melee suddenly makes so much more sense on the plane. Innistrad's got more fucking wizards than Hogwarts. That's probably where all of these curses are coming from. And speaking of wizard schools, look at Fleeting Distractions. The first spell taught to young mages, it has spared the lives of many whose hands are too small to hold a sword. The card Outwit. The student asks how the spell is begun. The master ponders what ends it. Counterlash. Pathetic. Let me show you how it's done. Now, admittedly, that might be smack talk from a fight, but I'm starting to think it's just as likely that it's a mentor speaking to a student. And speaking of mentors, there's literally the card Stern Mentor. Zero flavor text, so it's hard to know exactly what she's teaching, but again, she doesn't look like she's part of the church or a necro-alchemist. And if you look down here, just in the bottom corner, what's that? Well, it looks like some sort of arcane symbol to me. Hell, even that alchemist refuge is starting to make sense now. But that doesn't look like a school to me. No, I imagine that mentor is actually teaching at a location from this land. The Hinterland Harbour. In places where the sea meets the trees, it's easy to forget the darkness that ruled most of Innistrad. And why is this land card so important to my theory? Well, remember I said that these were wizards with a twist? A unique concept that I'd like to see explored more? When I said that, I was talking about Captain of the Mists, a human wizard from Avacyn Restored whose flavour text reads, "I am no mere ship's captain. The north wind is my accomplice, the tide is my first mate." Sick. And what's this captain doing? Why, crime, of course, as we see in Stolen Goods. But not just piracy, exploration too, I bet. Who was it, do you think, found the thing in the ice? I bet it wasn't even frozen when they found it. That's just the result of one pissed off arcane captain's ice blast. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I submit it to you that not only does Innistrad have a forgotten archetype, but that archetype is made up of a magic school that trains adventuring pirate wizards. Which, whilst tonally inconsistent with the gothic horror of the rest of the plane, is fucking cool as hell and deserves to be explored more. And, I would argue, no more tonally inconsistent than all of these dragons we see on the plane. Those feel certainly more in line with the school of wizardry. I think they go hand in hand. What do you think? Have I solved my own mystery here? Was there even a mystery to begin with? Was this yet again the ramblings of a lunatic? Let me know in the comments below. Do you feel there's enough evidence for a school of wizardry on Innistrad? If Midnight Hunt and Crimson Vow had featured it, would it have felt out of place? What impact could blue cards of that nature have had on the narrative? And if you were going to add a new creature type to the plane, what would it be? Thinking on it, do we know what they study at Nephalia Academy? I mean, it's the wrong colours, but it is a school. Huh. Thank you very much for watching this video, and thank you to everyone who supports me, like James Diamond, Eggboy the particle that permeates all existence, and the rest of my patrons whose names are on screen now. I'd also like to thank the sponsor for this video, me and my Patreon page, where you can get your name credited on screen too. Check it out in the link in the description below. Hit the like button, leave a comment, install an ad block, and most importantly, subscribe and share this video with a friend. Hit the notification bell and do all those things the algorithm loves. If you agree or disagree with any of my points, or you want to see me do a video on another subject, let me know, and I will see you next time. There's a weird way to sign off. Hit the notification bell and do all those things the algorithm loves. Algorithm. Hit the notification bell and do all those things the algorithm, whatever, loves.